today, huh? Freddy's dead. The final nightmare.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 1991 horror sequel, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. The film is directed by Rachel Talalay and it stars Robert Englund, Lisa Zane, Leslie Dean, Ricky Dean Logan, Bracklyn Mayer, Yaphet Kotto, and you've got cameos from the likes of Tom Arnold, Roseanne Barr and Johnny Depp. Right, okay, this time round, let's see if I can give some kind of synopsis for this film. Freddy dies, even though he dies in all the other films. How do I describe this one? For me, this one felt like quite a similar film to the third one, just vastly worse than the third one, I suppose. And you've got a kid that Freddy kind of uses to track down his daughter. And once he tracks down his daughter, he then unleashes his Freddiness on all the patients of his daughter, played by Lisa Zane, Maggie, until she can figure out a way to stop him for good this time, because this is the final nightmare. Right, what are my thoughts on Freddy's Dead, the final nightmare? Well, I think it's fair to say that this is quite easily the worst of the bunch, the worst of the Nightmare on Elm Street films. I do remember, I mean, it's a long, even after watching this, I remember literally nothing from watching this. It's probably, again, I probably just pushed it all to the back of my mind. It's not good. It's not great, this one, by any stretch of the imagination. And I mentioned on the last review for the fifth Nightmare on Elm Street film that, you know, by this point the formula and the franchise was becoming tired, and that's something I do remember at the time, you know, reading all the media coverage of the Nightmare on Elm Street films and movie magazines I used to read at the time. You know, people were getting tired of the franchise, so they decided to kill Freddy off, and for this film, and even had like a funeral for him. You know, the studio, New Line, was famously named the studio that Freddy built, or the house that Freddy built, because it was a struggling studio and it was kind of propped up from the money from the Nightmare on Elm Street films, and then once it found its feet, it kind of went off, and it didn't need Freddy or the Nightmare on Elm Street films anymore, so they decided to end them with this one. And not before time as well. This film is, for me, as I've said, a poor rehash of the third one. Terribly unmemorable characters. There are some interesting scenes in the film. You know, I thought the film actually started quite interestingly. You know, you get this kid on a plane being harassed by Freddy, and then you get Freddy doing the usual quips. It kind of rips off the Wizard of Oz and all sorts of things, and it throws a lot at you in the first 10 minutes sort of thing, this film. And I didn't hate it. I thought it was quite fun, even if Freddy at this point is completely different than the Freddy we met in the first two films, or three films at least. Certainly the first two. But, it wasn't a horrific start to the film, is what I'm trying to say. But kind of as soon as, this kid, is in like this hospital with these other kids, and it kind of just, from that point on, just stumbles and fumbles its way to the end. And the kids are just there to be, killed by Freddy in more and more bizarre ways, like, one kid in a video game, and I mean, it just goes on and on. There's one kid who's like deaf, or he's got like a hearing aid, and Freddy kind of plays around with that. And again, I thought that was quite inventive, but like in the third one, if you like, the kills were really clever and inventive, but there was still a bit of a sinister edge to Freddy almost. This time round, it was more like he was just playing with his victims, and he wasn't really interested in the kill as much. He just wanted to torture them or just have fun with them. And he's just full of one-liners and quips, and it's just not the Freddy that I want to see, and I'm sure many of you don't want to see either. So it just didn't feel like a threat so much in this one. It just didn't work. I thought the acting again was questionable here. I think the acting for the last, probably from, so the fourth one wasn't too bad, but I wasn't keen on some of the acting in that. But certainly the fifth one and this one, I thought the acting was pretty bad from some of the characters. There's characters in this film that don't need to be in it. There's cameos in this film that don't need to be there. The Tom Arnold and Roseanne Barr one is... It might have been interesting or have an impact at the time because of who they were and how popular they were, but now it just looks odd and silly. The Johnny Depp one, okay, I get it, but again, in 1991 when this came out, Johnny Depp wasn't exactly a household name still at this point. So it almost feels like how cool or how, crazy or zany can we make this film? And that's what they were going for, and they completely forgot about a tangible story here. And the whole story, I think, could have been a good one, with Freddy searching for his child. The flashbacks with him and his child were interesting. I thought they could have done something far more interesting with that. And it just felt like there was no impact at all, when you find out who his daughter is. It just doesn't have any impact at all. And to say that this film is like the final nightmare, Freddy's dead sort of thing, the way they kill him off is no different or more inventive than any other film. I mean, Freddy even makes a point in this film of saying to someone all the different ways they've tried to kill him in previous, encounters or previous films. And okay, yeah, he dies at the end of this one, but you think he dies at the end of all the others as well. So there's nothing definitive, I don't feel, about his death in this one. And it just feels like at times this film felt like a really cheap sitcom. Like a terrible, cheap sitcom at times. It was trying to be funny rather than scary. And for me, the last 2 or 3 Freddys have not been scary at all. But this one, it felt like a really terrible sitcom with terrible jokes, terrible quips. And some of the sets felt a little bit cheap to me. Some of the effects, okay, fairly interesting, but I don't want to see Freddy in a video game, It's just not cool. And there was something about his makeup as well. It's like they make him look really gaunt and skinny and old in this one as well. And again, he didn't look frightening. He looked frail to me. So I really have to be honest here. I didn't enjoy this one. It's easily the weakest one in the franchise for me. And the whole 3D gimmick, okay, it's 1991. 3D was a thing again at that point. And it's really odd watching this on a Blu-ray with the 3D gimmick. The effects in the film with the 3D stuff going off. It just looks ridiculous. But you can say that about any film that was 3D back in the day, like Jaws 3 and all that kind of stuff. They look stupid when you watch them without the 3D technology and stuff. So, yeah, for me, this one just didn't cut the mustard. There were some interesting moments in the film, and I do think the Freddy and his daughter thing was mishandled terribly. I think there was potential here to make this a much better film than we actually got. And what we actually got, I thought, was a pretty terrible disappointment. So thanks for watching, guys. I will be reviewing New Nightmare next, so stay tuned for that. I will, of course, be back with other reviews and content very, very soon.